The sky above planet Nix 7 cracked open like glass. A burning object shot through the clouds, leaving a long black trail across the purple sky. The alien locals ran for cover, screaming in fear. To them, anything falling from the heavens could only mean trouble inside the Nix medical dome. Nurse Vela was scanning a sick child when the alert sirens began to howl. Unidentified vessel crash landing. Coordinates locked. No life signs confirmed yet. Vela looked up from her work, her pale lavender eyes narrowing. Crashes didn't happen often on Nix 7. It was too remote, too barren. Who in the galaxy would be flying near here? Moments later, a rescue drone returned with a body. Tall, muscular, badly bruised and burned in places, strange dark hair, 2 eyes, flat teeth, no fur or scales, 1 heart. Red blood. Is this a human? A doctor asked aloud. Everyone around the table went silent. Humans were rare out here. Dangerous, some said. Wild. Others believed. But Vela didn't see danger. She saw someone who needed help. He's alive, she said firmly, stepping forward. I'll take responsibility. The human was unconscious, strapped gently onto the biobed. Medical bots hummed and moved around him, scanning every inch of his broken body. Bones were fractured. Internal bleeding in 2 places. Oxygen levels stable for now. His suit was badly torn. Most of it had melted during the crash. What remained was peeled off and sent for analysis. Nurse Vela, with trembling hands, started the deep tissue healing sequence. She had to get close. Real close. His skin was warm, too warm. His heart beat slower than she expected, but strong. When she tried scanning his lower abdomen, something strange happened. The medical scanner blinked red. Inflammation detected, foreign object or swelling possible. Warning, internal pressure buildup. Vela blinked. She adjusted the scanner and looked again. No mistake. There was a large bulge. Didn't match any organ pattern they knew. It wasn't metallic. It wasn't a tumor. It pulsed. She stepped back, her heart racing. What was that? She called for Dr. Shelvack, her superior. But before he arrived, the human groaned. His eyes fluttered open. Dark brown, unfocused at first, then sharp. He stared at the ceiling, then to the soft blue lights, then at her. Where am I? He whispered. You're in a medical dome on Nix 7, Vela answered quickly. You crashed. You are safe now. The human winced as he tried to sit up. Vela gently held him down. Don't move yet. You are badly injured. His eyes scanned the room, then looked down at his own body, mostly uncovered under the transparent med-dash sheet. Then he noticed something. Oh hell, he muttered. Realizing what was happening under the sheet, Vela followed his gaze. Her eyes widened. That bulge was growing. She backed away instantly. It's getting worse, she shouted. Doctor, come quickly. Dr. Shelvack entered and scanned the readings. His expression twisted in confusion. Is this some kind of internal parasite? He muttered. Or an alien infection spreading through the tissue? The human looked horrified. No. That's normal, at least. For a male human? Normal, Vela gasped, struggling to keep her face calm. This is a normal state for your body? The translator flickered. In our culture, that only happens when someone is... He paused, clearly embarrassed. Interested? Interested in what? Vela asked innocently. He went. Completely silent? Vela tilted her head, then blushed a deep violet. The machine beeped again. Dr. Shelvack looked disturbed. We'll have to quarantine him. We don't know if it's contagious or not. This may be some human reproductive flare reaction. Nurse Vela, you've discovered the anomaly, so protocol says you must monitor the patient until we understand the full situation? Monitor? She asked, wide-eyed. Double quotes, yes. Alone. Full observation. The human turned his head slowly toward her. Wait, what now? Vela swallowed hard. She had only tried to help a wounded man from the sky. Now she was stuck alone, the male human, whose body was doing things she wasn't trained for. And it was only the beginning. Asterisk Vela sat in the quarantine room, her hands tightly gripping the edge of the console. Her lavender skin glowed faintly under the soft lights, but her cheeks burned. With heat, the human was only a few feet away, quietly on the medical bed. He looked calm now, almost peaceful, his chest rising and falling in a slow rhythm. But Vela couldn't forget what she had seen. No textbook, no medical scroll. No. Holovid had prepared her for that strange swelling. She glanced at the scanner again. The alert was gone. The bulge had ... settled, but the memory stayed. I've seen creatures from death worlds, she whispered to herself, but never something like that. The human stirred. His eyes blinked open.
You again?
He said weakly. Vela forced a nervous smile. Yes. I've been assigned to observe you, for your condition. The human blinked in confusion. Condition? You know, she said slowly, cheeks darkening again. The area, the inflammation. He groaned. Mean that? Oh no, not again. Vela leaned forward. You said it was normal? That can't be normal. It looked like a medical emergency. The human rubbed his forehead. It's not. Look, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen. It's just a reaction to what? What she asked, voice suddenly sharper. To. He paused. Attraction. Vela stared at him. She slowly tilted her head. Attraction, that's a Bond term, correct? Something related to mating? Something like that? He muttered. Vela walked over to the console and checked the logs again. You went into that state shortly after you looked at me. The human turned bright red. I'm not saying anything, quickly added. Please don't write that in a report. Vela turned back, her long silver hair falling over one shoulder. So humans become inflated when they feel desire. He coughed. That is the worst way to describe it, but yeah, kind of. Vela walked to the edge of the bed and sat on a stool. She looked at him carefully, her scientist side finally taking over. This could be important, she said. Our species have never shared detailed reproductive knowledge before. You are the first human I've met. Well, I didn't plan. To crash land here, you know? Silence fell again. Then Vela asked something bold. Is it painful, that state? The human's eyes widened. No, I mean, it can be uncomfortable if nothing happens. But no, it's not painful. Nodded slowly. And what happens when it reaches its full state? He turned his face away. You really want me to explain that? I need to. For the record, he groaned. Okay. It wants to release. That's the simple version. Vela's eyes widened again, so it builds up pressure until it ejects something. He buried his face in his hands. Why do you say it like that? She shrugged. That's what the scanner indicated. Suddenly, the AI speaker overhead beeped. Nurse Vela. Patient's biological readings show signs of increasing heat. Recommend reducing room temperature. Vela frowned and checked the sensors. Your temperature is rising. Is that another reaction too? Me? The human looked like he wanted to vanish. This is the most embarrassing conversation of my life. I see, she whispered, typing notes into her tablet. Then she stopped and looked at him again. I have another question. He hesitated. Go ahead. Are all humans this reactive? Or are you? More sensitive than average. The man sighed. Depends. Some guys react faster. Some don't. I guess I'm just very human. Vela nodded slowly. Then we'll need to monitor you closely. Later that cycle, while the human rested, Vela sat beside the glass window and looked out into the night. She was supposed to be a professional nurse, a calm caretaker, a trained xenobiologist. But instead, she was locked in a room with a man whose body betrayed secrets no alien ever expected. And worse, her own body was reacting to. Her heart had been racing, her fingers tingled, and her eyes kept drifting toward him. Even when she told herself to stop, she wasn't supposed to feel this way. This wasn't just medicine anymore. It was something deeper, something dangerous, and the night had only just begun. The next morning, Vela stood frozen outside the sealed medical door. Inside, The human patient was stretching, unaware that his biological reaction had caused a wave of confusion across the entire medical dome. The scan logs from last night had been sent to Central Command for review now. Higher authorities were asking serious questions. Vila knew she had to act fast, because what they believed was completely wrong. Dr. Shelvack marched toward her, holding a datapad tightly. "Nurse Vila," he began coldly, "do you realize what your report triggered?" "I was only following medical protocol," she replied quickly. Shelvack turned the screen toward her. The scanner marked the swelling as a potential parasitic infection, tissue irregularities, even possible rapid tumor growth. The AI suggested amputation. Vila's heart dropped. Amputation. "Thankfully I stopped the order," he said, "but we can't ignore what this might be. We don't understand human biology. We don't know if this condition will spread." "It won't," Vela said softly. "It's not an infection, something else." Back in the quarantine room, the human who now introduced himself as Kyle was sipping something that tasted nothing like coffee but was warm enough to fake it. He was starting to feel better. His ribs didn't hurt anymore. The burns were healing fast. The real problem wasn't physical. It was the way the alien nurse looked at him now, like she had seen a demon crawl out of him, or worse. "Something interesting," the door hissed, and Vila stepped in again. He smiled nervously. "More scans?" "No," she said. "But we have a serious problem." Kyle's smile faded. Vela explained the misunderstanding, the readings. It's a possible quarantine expansion. The talk of cutting things off? Kyle stared at her like she'd just slapped him. "Wait, they thought that was a tumor or a parasite." She nodded, clearly embarrassed. "They believe you may be carrying a reproductive disease." He nearly choked on his drink. "That's just how it works. Can't quarantine every man just because he reacts that way." "But no other species on Nyx does this," she said. "Not so." Kyle rubbed his face and muttered, "This is the worst first contact ever." Vela paced in front of him, clearly shaken. "The doctors want more tests. They want blood, tissue samples. If I tell them the truth, they may not believe me." Kyle raised an eyebrow. "So, lie." "I'm not lying," she said. "I'm protecting you. But I need you to help me convince them." "Convince them of what?" "That it's a natural function, not a threat. That you're not dangerous." He hesitated. "Depends who's asking." Vela blinked. "What do you mean?" Leaned forward with a half-smile. "I've had some ex-girlfriends who might disagree." Before she could respond, the translator device on the table sparked and fizzed. Vela jumped. "What was that?" Kyle picked it up. The screen flickered, then went dark. "Oh no," he muttered. "That's not good. What happened?" "The translator's dying," he said. "It means we'll be talking without filters soon." Vila's eyes widened. "You mean I'll have to communicate directly?" "Yep," he said. "And that means your brain will try to guess what I'm saying instead of translating it exactly." "That sounds risky." He nodded, especially during personal topics. The door behind them opened suddenly. Dr. Shelvack stepped in, holding a small vial. He looked at both of them coldly. "I've authorized full-spectrum analysis. We will extract reproductive cells from the subject, voluntarily or not." Kyle's face turned pale. "I don't think so." Vela stepped in front of him. "He's not a specimen. He's a person. And I believe we're misunderstanding his biology." Shelvack narrowed his eyes. "Then prove it. Demonstrate that this condition can be triggered without infection. Show us the cause." Vila froze. "Show you," she whispered. "Yes," he said. "Right here. Right now." Silence filled the room. Kyle looked between the two aliens, completely lost. "What's happening?" he asked. Vela slowly turned toward him then. Softly she said, "They want me to cause it again." Kyle blinked. "Wait, what?" "Inly. To prove it's not dangerous," she said quickly. "Just to demonstrate a reaction." He looked horrified. That's weird. I can't just turn it on like a switch." Vela stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You don't have to do anything. Just don't panic." "Not panicking would be a miracle right now," Kyle whispered. Shellvac crossed his arms. Well, Vila took a deep breath, then reached out and placed her fingers gently on Kyle's chest. His heart jumped. Her skin was cool, smooth, glowing softly under the dim lights. She looked at him with those strange lavender eyes, not judging, just watching, and to everyone's surprise, including Kyle's, his body responded. The scanner beeped. Inflammation detected. No pathogens. No tissue trauma. Natural stimulation confirmed. Shellvac's jaw tightened. Vela slowly stepped back. I told you, she whispered. Not a disease. But deep down, even she knew. Something much more dangerous had just begun. Not an infection, not a medical mystery, but a bond neither of them could ignore. Asterisk, Planet Nix 7, Medical Dome, Isolation Bay, O3, a red light flashed over the sealed door. Quarantine Protocol 9 active. Inside, the sterile chamber, Nurse Vela stood frozen, her hands still trembling from the experiment she had just performed. The heat of the human skin still lingered on her fingers. She wasn't supposed to touch patients like that. She wasn't supposed to feel anything at all, and yet she had. Kyle, the human, sat awkwardly on the edge of the bed, gripping the sturt blanket like a shield. His face was redder than a Nixian sunstone. I didn't sign up for this, he muttered under his breath. Vila looked at him sharply. Neither did I. Minutes earlier, Dr. Shellvac had stormed out of the room, face grim, eyes unreadable, but his words echoed like thunder. Quarantine will be extended. You've triggered something. Too easily. We must monitor you both for safety and for science. So now Vela and Kyle were trapped, together, alone. For 48 hours. No exit, no privacy. Constant observation from outside through the one-way mirror. The room had no bed sheets, no personal items, no distractions, just silence, just questions, and one confused human with unpredictable anatomy. Kyle paced back and forth. So, just to confirm, we're locked in here because I got a little excited? Vila's face flushed a deeper violet. Yes, he groaned. This is ridiculous. To them it's serious, she replied softly. They think you might be a biohazard. A walking reproductive trigger. Raised an eyebrow. That's not the worst nickname I've ever had, she sighed. Kyle, they don't understand your biology. Now that I've reacted to your presence, they think it could affect me too. He paused. Wait, you reacted? Vila looked away. My heart rate rose. Temperature increased. Sensory nerves became more sensitive. All signs of emotional arousal in Nixian physiology. So, I infected you with feelings. She glared at him. Don't be proud of that. Hours passed. Neither spoke much. But both watched. Vela observed Kyle when he wasn't looking, his odd gestures. The way he scratched his neck when nervous. How his smile came and went like flickering starlight. Kyle, meanwhile, kept trying not to stare at her. It was hard. She was beautiful in a way. Completely alien long, silver hair like liquid light, smooth violet skin, soft glowing patterns across her arms. He didn't mean to feel anything, but he did, and the room kept getting warmer. A soft chime echoed from the ceiling. Time for emotional compatibility test. Begin verbal exchange protocol. Kyle blinked. What's that mean? Bella didn't answer immediately. She opened a drawer and pulled out a black cube with tiny lights. It's a bonding scanner, she said. Measures emotional connection. Between two beings through conversation. Kyle laughed nervously. So, like speed dating? Bella tilted her head. I don't know what that means. It means they want us to fall in love. For science, she frowned. This isn't a joke, Kyle. If the scanner detects a permanent emotional bond forming, it could trigger something dangerous. Like, what? She hesitated. On Nix-bonded pairs release a hormone that syncs their nervous systems. It can become permanent. Even across species. Kyle went silent. Vila activated the cube. The lights glowed. Begin conversation now, the cube said. Kyle scratched his head. So, what do you do for fun when you're not accidentally arousing patients? Vela blinked. I meditate. Read molecular structure poems or care for sick wildlife? Kyle chuckled. You're like a glowing alien Disney princess. That good? She asked seriously. He smiled. Yeah, it's really good. Got the cube beeped once. A tiny blue light lit up on its side. Vila's eyes widened. It's responding. That's bad? Kyle asked. She nodded slowly. That means one of us is emotionally opening up. Maybe both, he said quietly. Silence settled again. Vela looked down. Why are humans so intense? Kyle tilted his head. We feel fast. We love fast. And sometimes we crash hard, just like my ship. She looked at him. Ow. Are you scared right now? He said, terrified. You? She nodded. More than I've ever been. The cube beeped again. The blue light turned brighter, and now a second color glowed pink. Vila's hands trembled. That color means bond initiation has begun. Kyle blinked. Just from talking? Vela stared into his eyes. Or maybe from understanding each other. Outside the room, Dr. Shelvack watched the glowing cube through the glass. He frowned. Quarantine. Protocol 9 wasn't enough, he muttered to his assistant. Why? The assistant asked. Shelvack's eyes narrowed. Dud. Because this isn't science anymore. It's becoming something else. Something we can't control. Time moved strangely inside the quarantine room. There was no sunrise, no sunset. Just the soft hum of sterilized air and the dim artificial lights that never changed. Kyle and Vila had been locked together for almost a full Nixian rotation. They should have been tired, irritated, distant, but something else was happening instead. Something Vila couldn't explain with science. And something Kyle felt in his chest, even stronger than the pain from his crash. Kyle lay on his side, watching the glowing lines along Vila's neck. They shimmered faintly every time she spoke. She sat cross-legged on the sterile floor, scanning. The bonding cube again, even though they both knew what it would show. The lights on the cube now glowed in steady rhythm. Blue and pink, soft and warm. Bond progress. 63% it's progressing, Vela said quietly. Kyle raised an eyebrow. Is that normal? No, she admitted. Bonds usually take weeks, months, sometimes years. This is unnatural. Kyle gave her a lopsided smile. Or maybe we're just both incredibly weird. Vila stared at him, unsure whether to laugh or panic. Earlier that cycle, Vela had asked something no nurse was ever supposed to ask her patient. What does love feel like to a human? She hadn't meant to speak it aloud. The words just slipped, but Kyle hadn't laughed. He hadn't mocked her. He just looked at her gently and said, It's when you care more about someone else's heartbeat than your own. Vela didn't respond at first, because at that moment, she realized her own heartbeat was no longer her priority. Now, she sat near him again. She noticed the tiny things. The way he always made a joke before saying something serious. The way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. The fact that his voice could calm her racing thoughts better than any tranquilizer. She had spent her whole life memorizing alien genomes and studying organ systems, but no medical record could explain. This feeling, she finally asked, Why aren't you afraid of me anymore? Kyle blinked. Was I? In the beginning? It looked at me like I was dangerous. He paused. That was because I had no idea what to expect. And now? She asked. He smiled softly. Now I'm trying not to fall for the girl who scanned me during an erection. Vila blinked. Is that a compliment? He laughed. Absolutely. The cube beeped again. Bond progress. 71% Vela stood and walked to the far side of the room, trying to hide her shaking hands. Her skin was glowing brighter now. The shimmering patterns had begun to spread down her arms, a sign of deep emotional merging in Nixian biology. This wasn't just about science anymore. It's not for her. She pressed her palms to the glass wall, trying to block the growing storm in. Her chest. I wasn't supposed to feel this way, she whispered. Kyle came up behind her slowly. Me either. But here we are. She turned to face a man, the air between them felt Different. Heavy. Charged. Their eyes met, and neither of them looked away. Suddenly, the intercom crackled. "Vila, this is Dr. Shelvok. Do not move closer. Step away from the human." Heart dropped. She backed away, but too late. A loud metallic clank echoed. Gas hissed from vents near the ceiling. Kyle coughed. "What the hell is that?" "They've activated separation mist," Vela said, horrified. "They're trying to suppress the bond response. They're drugging us." "Not drugs," she replied, holding her breath. "Neural fog. It dulls emotional waves. They think it'll kill the connection." Kyle looked straight at her. "Do you want that?" She looked at him. Really looked. Tanned. Her next words changed everything. "No." Without thinking, she rushed to him, pressed her forehead against his, and whispered in her native tongue words she never thought she'd say to a human, "I choose this. I choose you." The cube exploded with light. Bond complete. Warning: cross-species neural sync achieved. Outside the chamber, alarms rang. Inside, Vila collapsed into Kyle's arms, the glow on her body now pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. He held her gently, whispering, "It's okay, I've got you." And though neither of them understood what would come next, they both knew this was no longer just curiosity. It was a connection written deeper than blood. Language or species. Asterisk, the glow on Vila's skin didn't fade. If anything, it grew brighter. Her pulse matched Kyle's. Her breath moved in sync with his. In that sealed white chamber, time no longer mattered. The cube between them now floated mid-air, spinning on its own, emitting soft waves of light, a completed cross-species. Bond, something once thought impossible, was now real, and all it had taken was a human's gentle touch and an alien's. Open heart. Outside the room, chaos spread through the medical dome. Dr. Shelvok shouted over the intercom, "Disconnect them. Override quarantine doors. Cut neural sync immediately." Technicians scrambled to comply, but it was too late. The bond had fused. No machine could undo what was now alive between them. Inside, Bella opened her eyes slowly. Her glowing fingers were still resting against Kyle's chest. Not pressing, not scanning, just feeling. She felt warmth, strength, and something else too. Something that hummed through her bones like music. "Kyle." "Shh," she whispered, voice barely there. He looked down at her, holding her close like she might vanish if he let go. "Still with me?" "Feels strange, but not bad." "Same," he said softly. "It's like I'm not in my body anymore, like part of Mez, inside you." Her heart skipped. He hadn't meant it romantically, but to her people, those words were sacred. Nixians didn't marry. They didn't date. Their kind formed neural pairs, sometimes for life, sometimes for war. Bonds were powerful, rare, and irreversible once complete. And now she had one with a human. She looked up at him. "Do you know what you've done?" Kyle frowned. "I thought you did this." "No," she said gently. "You responded to me, but I responded to you. The bond doesn't form unless both are open." Kyle swallowed hard. "So what does this mean?" Vela hesitated, then she stepped back, raised her glowing palm, showed him the shifting mark that had formed across her skin. A spiral. The ancient symbol of union. "It means, you're mine now," she whispered, "and I'm yours." Lights above flickered. The room shook. A loud mechanical voice echoed through the speakers. "Containment breach detected. Room must be sterilized in 60 seconds. Kyle's eyes widened. "What does that mean?" "They think the bond is a threat," Vela said. "They want to wipe everything." "You mean us?" She nodded, trembling. Kyle took her hand. "We're not letting them end this. Not like this." But the doors. Kyle reached behind the scanner bed, pulled a loose medical pipe, and slammed it into the glass wall with all the force his healing body could give. Crack. Again. Crack. Again. Finally, dash shatter. The glass wall exploded outward. Sparks. It out down. Alarm screamed, and Kyle pulled Vela through the broken wall. Holding her tight, running toward whatever came next, they raced through the med hall, past shocked nurses and doctors frozen in disbelief. Some tried to stop them. Viola's glow pulsed brighter. Her newly formed bond released a wave of raw emotion. Machines shorted out, lights popped, walls shook. They weren't just connected anymore. They were linked body, mind, and soul. They reached the emergency pod bay. Kyle dove inside the nearest shuttle with Vela behind him. The doors hissed shut. Her hands flew over the controls, overriding lockdown. "You know how to fly this thing?" Kyle asked. "I designed half of it," she replied, eyes fierce. "Hold on." The pod launched into the atmosphere, ripping past the upper dome in a streak of blue light. Behind them, Nixian authorities scrambled, but couldn't stop what had already changed. Two species had just formed a bond. No one believed could happen, and it had all started with a medical scan of something they thought was just inflammation. Inside the pod, Kyle sat breathless. Vela turned to him slowly. "Kyle, this bond, it's not just emotion, it's biology, it's memory, it's destiny now." He looked into her glowing eyes. "Then I guess I've got a destiny I never saw coming." She reached out and touched his cheek, and as their foreheads met again, stars outside the pod shimmered like they were watching. The stars drifted quietly outside the runaway pod, but inside, everything had changed. Nurse Vila sat close to the human she was no longer supposed to treat. No longer supposed to touch, yet somehow could no longer stay away from. The bond between them pulsed softly in the air, invisible but real. A rhythm that neither language nor logic could explain. Kyle was staring at her glowing arm, watching the swirling spiral that had appeared after their connection. He touched it gently, and she shivered not from fear, but from something older, deeper. "I still can't believe they tried to sterilize us," he whispered. Vila's voice was calm but heavy. They were afraid of something new, something they didn't understand. He turned to face her. "And are you afraid?" She hesitated then. Slowly she shook her head. "Not anymore." They landed hours later on a small forest moon off the grid, away from the sensors of Nixian authorities. Vila had trained here once as a student. Now it became their hideout, their exile, and maybe the beginning of something else. The small shelter hummed with old energy as it activated. The walls unfolded. The lights blinked on. Kyle helped unpack the med kit and set it on the floor. Vila turned to him. "You're still healing." "We should." He stepped closer. Her words stopped. Mid-sentence. His eyes weren't pained anymore. They were focused. "I'm not broken anymore, Vila," he said softly. "Not in body, not in heart." The glow on her arms pulsed. "Again, your biology," she said nervously. "It may respond again," he smiled. "I know." Vela tried to step back. Her mind raced with protocols, boundaries, fears, but her body didn't move, because his hand was already gently on hers. "I thought it was an emergency," she whispered, remembering that first scan. "I thought I was dying," he replied. She looked up at him, and now. He leaned closer. "I think I've never been more alive." The bond between them surged, not like before, soft and passive. This time it burned. Vila's skin glowed brighter, her patterns expanding across her chest and shoulders like blossoming light. She pressed her hand to her heart, gasping. "What is this?" she whispered. Kyle cupped her cheek. "It's not a reaction. It's not inflammation. It's desire," she breathed. Their foreheads touched again. No machines, no scans, no rules, just heat and hunger and something purer, later wrapped in the quiet warmth of the shelter. Their bodies tangled beneath a thin thermal sheet. Vela whispered the word she once feared to say aloud. "I wasn't built for this, but now I can't imagine life without it." Kyle kissed her fingertips gently. "Then let's build it together. One heartbeat at a time," she smiled truly. Fully for the first time since that emergency pod arrived with a broken human inside, far above in the cold. Nixon Capital. Dr. Shelvack stood before a council of advisors. "They escaped," one said bitterly. "No," Shelvack replied, eyes grim. "They evolved." "What do you mean?" He turned away. The bond wasn't the danger. The connection was. Because if a human and a Nixian can merge like that, then no species is safe from change. Silence. And in that silence, a quiet fear settled across the galaxy. A fear that maybe love was the strongest contagion of all.